Yourself a tech expert, but you can still protect yourself from online scammers with McAfee Total Protection. From fake delivery text to bank alerts, scams are everywhere. That's where McAfee Total Protection steps in. McAfee will help keep your devices and identity safer and your private info private. Visit McAfee.com/online protection and get up to 79% off award-winning online protection. This Black Friday Cyber Monday deal won't last. Offer ends 12/4/24. That's McAfee.com/online protection. Cancel anytime. Terms apply.
Don't you deserve healthcare you can count on? Well, you can count on United Healthcare with Medicare plans that fit your life today and as your needs change tomorrow. You can enjoy reliable coverage and low out-of-pocket costs with a Medicare Advantage plan from United Healthcare. United Healthcare Medicare Advantage plans. Made for Utah, trusted everywhere. The Medicare annual enrollment period ends December 7th, so go to uhc.com/Medicare today.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Sinclair's DinoPay app. Save up to 20 cents per gallon. And here's Ricky Meese.
We do have a new accident southbound Mountain View corridor, about 105th south. Also debris in the road northbound I-215's westbound in the right lane near 3500 south, and a right lane still blocked with the final clearing of the crash southbound 3rd west at 6 north. Celebrate the 80th anniversary of America's first Nutcracker at Ballet West with music performed live by the Ballet West Orchestra. Reserve your seats for this holiday tradition at balletwest.org. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
Above normal temperatures today with a high around 60, mostly cloudy and 57 on Saturday, colder Sunday with rain and snow likely. And right now, 55 degrees, mostly cloudy skies. I'm Dan Bomas from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources. A new presidency, new state leaders, and a new legislative session. Utah's top political experts discuss the day's biggest stories. Only on KSL News Radio.
Good afternoon and welcome to Inside Sources. I'm your host this afternoon, Greg Skordas, KSL's legal analyst, and we also have a new nominee for Attorney General. It seems like it's only been a few days since Matt Gaetz was nominated by President-elect Trump. That nomination lasted all of 6 or 7 days. He left under a sort of a cloud of controversy. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But Trump has now announced his subsequent pick, and this is Pam Bondi, B-O-N-D-I. Let's talk about who this woman is. We did a little research on her and found out the following. She is the first female attorney general from Florida. She served as Florida's attorney general for 8 years, 2 terms, from 2011 to 2019. She initiated the state's litigation against opioid manufacturers and settled after she left the office. So she has a very stellar legal career. She certainly, has the qualifications for that job. I would also say this, some things she did while she was Florida's Attorney General that I think are noteworthy. She tried to overturn the Affordable Care Act. That didn't work too well. Pushed back against legal protections for including marriage for LGBTQ community. So obviously she has a very conservative bent. Declined to take legal action against Trump University. That seems to have worked out well for her. And she received, after she received multiple complaints of fraud from students at that university, that same year she received a $25,000 campaign contribution from Trump, prompting a Massachusetts attorney to accuse her of bribery. That account never went forward. ABC News' John Carl had a little bit more information about her, and here's what he said in terms of her loyalty to Trump.
Perhaps most importantly to Trump, she's been a loyal member of his inner circle for years now, joining him on the campaign trail back in 2016.
I can tell you firsthand, when it comes to law and order, you know I don't mess around, and neither does Donald Trump.
And serving on Trump's legal team during his first impeachment trial. Bondi's nomination comes after her fellow Florida Republican Matt Gaetz bowed out, withdrawing his bid amid allegations he used drugs and paid young women for sex.
Yeah, so she's certainly a Trump follower. She's certainly a Trump advocate, but she also has the skills, I would say, as a former attorney general, to serve in this position. And that's something that Matt Gaetz really lacked. I mean, he was an attorney, and that's about all you could say in terms of his qualification to be attorney general. She was the attorney general for the state of Florida, first female there. A little bit more to learn about her. Since she left the attorney general's office in Florida, she has become a partner in an agency called Ballard Partners, which is a lobbying firm that had been run by now incoming chief of staff for Trump, Susie Wiles, and that agency, that lobbying firm, was a top Trump fundraiser. She is the co-chair of the Law and Justice Division of that lobbying firm, and the Pro-Trump America First Policy Institute, which is sort of like a Trump administration in waiting. So she's been not only got the legal acumen to take the job, but she's got the political background that I think is important for Trump as he looks at his administration in terms of what I think are his three most important character traits for his administration: loyalty, loyalty, and loyalty. She has a close relationship with Laura Trump, the president-elect's daughter-in-law, who is currently the chair of the RNC, the Republican National Committee. They work together on issues. And Tuesday, Bondi actually advocated for Laura Trump to become the replacement for Senator Marco Rubio. So if you recall, Marco Rubio, the senator from Florida, has now been picked to be Trump's Secretary of State, leaving a vacancy in Florida for their Senate. They're also going to have a vacancy there for their for Congress now that Matt Gaetz is withdrawn, so a lot of activity going on in Florida, I guess. And she's advocated for Laura Trump to take that position. I think that Florida would be much like Utah in as much as the governor, Ron DeSantis, would have the ability to make those appointments, at least in the interim. So yeah, she's got some clout there as well. A couple of other things to know about her: she was Trump's lawyer. She represented him in his first impeachment trial. She was his senior advisor and lawyer. She certainly made the rounds on TV during that time. He was impeached as a part of that, but the Senate acquitted him. She was his lawyer in that respect. So she's got some legal background with Trump as well. She spoke at a Trump rally earlier this year and was talking about what a loyalist she is to the then future president.
President Trump has been out there fighting for us non-stop. And if he's out there fighting for us, we're going to fight for him.
And she's certainly going to have that opportunity. I would think that her nomination is not going to have a lot of pushback from the Senate. It may from the Democrats, but the Republicans hold a majority, a 3-seat majority, or at least they will in January when they take office. And this looks like a nomination because of her legal acumen and her political background that should go through fairly smoothly. Some little bit of controversy, not much maybe. She received this, I told you a minute ago, she received a $25,000 political, she gave rather, a political contribution. I'm saying this backwards. Trump paid her $25,000 for her election in 2013. She paid that back, and Trump paid a $2,500 fine for that. And some people thought that contribution was made in an effort to get her to not pursue a fraud investigation into Trump University. She didn't pursue the fraud investigation into Trump University, and apparently they had some close ties to the state of Florida, which would have given her a jurisdiction to do that. Trump actually settled that case for $25 million. And Bondi said at the time she was unaware of Trump University complaints and that the contribution had nothing to do with her office's decision to pursue the case. Trump has said that he admired her for sort of staying away from the fray. So Pam Bondi, the new nominee for Attorney General, certainly has some qualifications and certainly has the president's blessing. My guess is this one should go through fairly well. One little tidbit I think this interesting, a little controversy she had, a dog custody battle. So after Hurricane Katrina, she found a dog a little St. Bernard in 2005. It had been separated from its family, and she tried to keep the dog. The family tried to get the dog back, and they sued. She said, well, you guys weren't taking care of the dog. There was a lawsuit that they finally settled. It lasted 16 months until they settled the lawsuit. She returned the dog to the family, including some food and medication. Wow. So anyway, not much baggage with her, looking like a pretty attractive candidate for Attorney General, which people have always said is the top prosecutor, top law enforcement job in the country. I mean, we talk about these attorneys general as the top law enforcement official. Of course, they're not law enforcement. They're not cops. But she's certainly going to be in a high position here. A couple of Trump's lawyers who have represented him over the past as his criminal defense lawyers, interestingly and coincidentally, have also been named to work in the Justice Department under her. These would be some of her higher-ups, her chief deputies, that type of thing. A couple of the lawyers that helped him in his criminal defense, I think in the New York hush money case, are now also going to be working for the Trump department. What happened to Matt Gaetz and what is going to happen to Matt Gaetz, we'll talk about that after the break. Stay with us.
The KSL News Radio app will update you on breaking stories.
A house explosion this afternoon.
And you'll get exclusive audio streams from local events, breaking news, and sports.
Cougars feel like they can overcome anything.
All of your favorite KSL hosts are there too, so you can listen anytime. Plus traffic and weather. Download it today. The app for KSL News Radio.
It is always a great day when the Western Nut Company catalog arrives in our mailbox. After all, they have been a holiday giving tradition since 1966. Just wouldn't be the holiday season without the Western Nut Company. And as you peruse the catalog, there are so many wonderful gift-giving ideas. My wife, whose family is back in Missouri, she always goes into the Western Nut Company and makes sure that things are delivered right to their door, and it is a favorite. They're a big hit back in Missouri, too. Wherever you have special people that you want to give the perfect gift to, you go to the Western Nut Company, and they take care of it all. Delicious, freshly roasted nuts. Look for the kiosks that are popping up, and of course, you can drop by the factory store at 434 South on 3rd West. The look and the feel, the smells and the tastes of the season await you at Western Nut.
You wouldn't know it, but most financial advisors are put in a box. I'm Jeff Jr. from Trajan Wealth, and I want to provide you a little insight about financial advisors. Most financial advisors have to sell what their company requires them to sell, and many advisors have to only adhere to what's called a suitability standard. A suitability standard is a limited standard of care, not requiring what's sold to be best just suitable. Advisors with this loose standard often have limited investment and product selection. Trajan Wealth is held to a fiduciary standard, which is the highest standard of care in the advisory business. And that's just one of the many reasons we have billions of dollars under our care and attract clients from other advisors. Raise your standards today and call Trajan Wealth. Call 801-899-7600. That's 801-899-7600.
Advisory services offered through Trajan Wealth, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor.
Food brings people together, but many families don't know where their next meal is coming from. In Utah, 317,000 people, many of whom are children, are struggling with food insecurity. And Macy's is continuing the tradition of bringing hope to families in need. You can help provide hope by donating to Macy's Harvest of Hope Drive, now through November 30th. All donations will be donated to a local food bank to serve families in our communities. Purchase an icon for any amount or a prepackaged bag of food with items that food pantries need most at any Macy's store or online at Macys.com. Look for items tagged with the Harvest of Hope icon throughout the store. A portion of sales from those items will also be donated to local food pantries. Together, we can make a difference in our communities and provide hope to families and children facing food insecurity. Visit Macys.com or your local Macy's grocery store to learn more.
If you're living with dry age-related macular degeneration or dry AMD, you may be at risk for developing geographic atrophy or GA. GA can be unpredictable and progress rapidly, leading to irreversible vision loss. Now there's something you can do to
slow it down again. get it going slower.
Izervay is proven to slow GA progression.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Izervay or avacincaptad Pagel is a prescription eye injection used to treat GA. Don't take it if you have an infection or active swelling in or around your eye. Izervay can cause eye infection, retinal detachment, or increased risk of wet AMD. Izervay may temporarily increase eye pressure. Your vision may be impaired after an eye injection or exam. Don't delay. Ask your doctor about Izervay today.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Visit Izervay.com. That's IZERVAY.com.
Any Hour Services can help you make sure your furnace keeps you warm this winter. Whether you need a tune-up, a repair, or a second opinion about replacing it, call Any Hour Services or visit anyhourservices.com.
An airliner takes off from the Pacific Northwest, carrying 101 passengers and crew. Most aboard Flight 293 are active-duty military and their families, headed to Cold War assignments in Alaska.
Surveillance of the Soviet military buildup.
But somewhere over the ocean, with no distress call, the airliner plunges into the icy water below.
Even if all 4 engines quit, that aircraft would fly.
There were no survivors and no bodies were ever recovered. For decades, loved ones were left to wonder
what happened to Flight 293 and why hasn't there been any follow-up.
The government turned its back. Passengers and crew of Flight 293 were forgotten by everyone, except their families.
Unless we pursue it, we will never be issued a true explanation.
Unsolved Histories: What Happened to Flight 293 is available now. Follow us at unsolvedhistoriespod.com or wherever you get your podcasts.
With the 3 things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bomas. First, a domestic violence standoff in Kaysville ended peacefully with 1 arrest last night. Second, Hyundai and Kia recalling 200,000 electric vehicles because of a problem with their charging units. And third, a win for University of Utah football could help BYU get into the Big 12 title game. 54 degrees, mostly cloudy in Salt Lake City. And back to Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Welcome back to Inside Sources. I'm your host this afternoon, Greg Skordas, and we talked about the replacement for the Matt Gaetz nomination as Attorney General to replace current Attorney General Merrick Garland, who, of course, Donald Trump is not going to keep into his cabinet. He nominated Matt Gaetz, a week ago? I think it was 8 days ago. Gaetz took his name out of the running 2 days ago, and Trump has now nominated Bondi, a former Attorney General from the state of Florida, Pam Bondi, to be the next nominee. We talked about her at the last session. Let's talk about what is going on with Matt Gaetz. First of all, why did he resign? Why did he pull his name out? What happens to his congressional seat? Who will replace him? We talked about that. And where do we go with this ethics complaint, this ethics investigation that was done by Congress? So let's break that down right now. Why did he resign? He indicates, and he and Trump have both indicated throughout, that his nomination was going to go through and that he wasn't going to have problems. But as it got more and more into the nomination and realizing that he had a thin number of senators that he couldn't lose, rather, because when January comes around, I think it's quite clear now that there's going to be a 53-47 majority of Republicans in the Senate, which means that for the Senate to confirm a nomination, they're going to need half of the votes, and so he could only lose 3. He thought he was losing 4. He thought he had some problems with 4 senators. And it's interesting, this group: Lisa Murkowski of Alaska, Susan Collins of Maine, Mitch McConnell of Kentucky, and they've all said this. Collins said that Gaetz' withdrawal really was him putting the country first. It was the best decision Gaetz could have made. Mitch McConnell called the withdrawal an excellent move. Senator Murkowski called it a sound decision. But there's a 4th senator that Gaetz said he didn't think was going to be in his camp, and that was Utah Senator-elect John Curtis, who didn't make a comment at the time. And in fact, the New York Times podcast, Gaetz sort of blamed Curtis for part of the reason he was getting out.
Matt Gaetz.
The Times has learned that Gaetz told people close to him he determined there were at least 4 Republican senators who were strongly opposed to him: Lisa Murkowski of Alaska, Susan Collins of Maine, Mitch McConnell of Kentucky, and the newly elected John Curtis of Utah.
There's a question of if there will be such backlash from the MAGA wing of the party against these Republican senators who expressed concerns about Gaetz, that they will harass them or blame them for not giving Trump the cabinet he wants, and therefore they're going to feel too much pressure for them not to do it again to another nominee. That's an open question.
John Curtis's team actually was contacted by KSL News Radio this morning and indicated that Curtis hadn't even met with Gaetz, and there was no strong straw poll. So they don't know where this was coming from. In fact, Senator-elect Curtis made the following pronouncement. This is a statement that we've read as follows. Senator-elect Curtis believes that every president is afforded a degree of deference to select his team and make nominations. He also firmly believes and is committed to the Senate's critical role to confirm or reject nominations based on information and insight from confirmation hearings. Curtis takes his constitutional duty to provide advice and consent seriously, and his goal is to ensure that Utahns' voices are heard. He plans to carefully examine the records and qualifications of every nominee President-elect Trump sends to the Senate. That does not seem to be a veto of the Matt Gaetz nomination. Nonetheless, Gaetz felt, I think, and the writing was on the wall, that it was going to be unlikely that he was going to get the requisite 50+1 votes to have his nomination confirmed. And I think more importantly for Gaetz, the nomination process, and we've seen this in situations, for example, Clarence Thomas decades ago, other nominations that become the focal point of some serious public scrutiny, a lot of media attention. I don't think Gaetz wanted to go through that. So what happens to Gaetz' seat in Congress? Well, will he be returning? Because there was some dispute about this. If you recall, after he was nominated for Attorney General, he had to withdraw his congressional seat. But he was just reelected. So some people thought, well, since the Florida Governor DeSantis hadn't accepted his withdrawal of his surrendering his congressional seat, that's really not effective. Plus, he could always say, well, I just got reelected. I'll just take my position back in January. However, here's what Gaetz said about his rejoining Congress.
Matt Gaetz.
I'm going to be fighting for President Trump.
But telling conservative podcaster Charlie Kirk,
8 years is probably enough time in the United States Congress.
Blaming lawmakers upset over a House Speaker's ouster.
They didn't like me because of what I did to Kevin McCarthy.
Of the drug and sex allegations, giving credit to the Justice Department.
Those allegations were coming from sources that Merrick Garland's DOJ had already deemed not credible.
That being Attorney General Garland.
So, Matt Gaetz is not returning to Congress. He's not going to be the nominee for Attorney General. And so it begs the question, Congress did this investigation. The House Ethics Committee did a full-on 3-year investigation into Matt Gaetz. That investigation has not yet been unsealed. We're told from Speaker of the House Johnson that he does not intend to release that, but it's there. We've got this whole big investigation that's sort of floating out there. What are we going to do with that? I think that a couple things. One, if Gaetz had returned to Congress, or if he hadn't given up his position in Congress, there would have been a congressional investigation. That report would have been central to that investigation. That information would have come out during the ethics congressional hearings, and that would have been embarrassing to Gaetz, whether they were true or not. Now, he says, look, and I'll support this, he was never convicted of anything, he was never tried for anything, there was no crime, the Department of Justice apparently investigated it, but when you're dealing with the difference between criminal charges and sort of ethics complaints, there's a different standard, and if you recall, I'm a defense attorney. I'm a former prosecutor. When you go to court on a criminal case, the standard of proof is high. It's actually the highest standard of proof in our country, proof beyond a reasonable doubt. If you're going to charge somebody criminally, you better have your ducks in a row. You better have your case together. You have to convince a jury unanimously and beyond a reasonable doubt that a person has committed a crime. However, you want to have them removed from office, the standard is much lower. And it's not that you have to convince a jury unanimously. You just have to convince the House members by a mere majority that he, in fact, committed misdeeds while he was a congressional representative. So I think the fact that he's not charged criminally, and I guess this is the point I'm trying to make, doesn't mean the conduct didn't occur. It just means that the Department of Justice felt that their chances of prevailing in front of a jury were slim. Whether or not that still would have been embarrassing to Gaetz in a congressional ethics committee hearing would have been remained to be seen. But I think that he could see the writing on the wall. And frankly, why go through it anyway? I mean, he knows that that's out there. He knows that information's out there. It's going to be embarrassing to the new administration. It's going to be difficult for him to serve effectively in Congress. He's already got a fair amount of baggage. I'm sure he will land well on his feet in the Trump administration because he's a Trump loyalist, and he'll find a place not in Congress and not who knows where he'll end up, but it's not going to be in Congress with this investigation. When we come back after the break, let's stay in Washington, D.C. and talk about the future of the January 6 cases. Stay with us.
It's 1:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Dan Bomas. KSL's top local story this hour. One person died in a car crash in Roy yesterday. Police say this happened at the intersection of 31st West and Midland Drive when a driver tried to turn left in front of an oncoming car. That car ran into the one turning, and one of the passengers died. That accident. Ogden's Union Station celebrating its 100-year anniversary this weekend. KSL News Radio's Alexandria Bonilla reports.
The building was originally dedicated in 1924 to be a major transportation hub in Ogden. It's right up against historic 25th Street, the city's core for dining and other cultural experiences. The celebrations start today with a time capsule ceremony. There was a time capsule placed 100 years ago that was opened earlier this summer, and this one will have items from 26 different groups. There's also a concert scheduled for tomorrow, and wrapping it all up is a drone show. Alexandria Bonilla, KSL News Radio.
Our top national story this hour from ABC News. The Texas State Board of Education has approved the inclusion of religious stories in public school lessons. These are included in a curriculum package called Bluebonnet. Critics say the materials refer to Christian Bible stories and exclude other religions. Your money at this moment, the Dow Jones average up on the day right now, 336 points. The NASDAQ up at just about 5 points is all. And our KSL weather. We're seeing warmer temperatures today, but there's a winter storm just over the horizon. That's next. KSL News Time, 1:31.
We hope you have the right app on your phone for news. You probably have dozens.
But the KSL News Radio app, well, it makes our live stream super easy.
Plus, our talk shows are right there as podcast for your workday.
That's the app for KSL News Radio. I remember, Tim, 3 years ago when I started on the soda weight loss program in November. I had friends and family say, "What, are you nuts? Why would you try and lose weight right before the holidays?" I just thought, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it now. I'm going to show myself I can do it. And honestly, I think losing all that weight is one of the best gifts I've ever given my kids.
Yeah.
Ethan lost weight afterward. We started eating healthier as a family. And I showed them, I want to be around when you grow up. I want to take care of my health.
And what a gift to give yourself.
Yes.
My daughter actually started the exact same time you did, and she let go of 42 pounds, and she proved to herself that if she could do it through the holidays, she'd be fine the rest of the year. And she has kept that weight off. It's one of the great things about this program that teach you to have a different relationship with food. And that relationship starts today by just requesting a nutritionist call. All you have to do is go to sodaweightloss.com and click on that button and start today.
And save money on their holiday special.
Go to sodaweightloss.com. It's spelled SOTA, and it stands for State of the Art.
Cindy Olsen here for Dave's Bernina's huge Black Friday week sale at their Provo and St. George stores, featuring 1.99% up to 60 months financing on certain models. Burnett sewing machines start at only $249. Buy the Bernina B700E for only $2,999. Save $2,000. The Bernina 735 is discounted and includes thousands of dollars of free accessories while supplies last. How about a free embroidery module if you purchase a B570 QE or B770 QE Plus? Black Friday weekend doorbuster specials, $99 walking fee for the first 10 customers, incredible accessory deals, and a limited supply of Bernina 3, 4, 5, and 7 series machines. Offered at prices too low to mention. Fantastic bargains on trade-in machines and Q20 quilters. Black Friday week at Dave's Bernina, 691 East St. George Boulevard and 2017 North 550 West in Provo. Come see the Bernina 990, the most amazing revolutionary sewing machine in the world.
Jazz games are better together. Host an unforgettable night at Delta Center with colleagues, friends, families, whoever. Group tickets are the best way to get everyone together to cheer on the Jazz. Pick from a variety of options for seating, dining, and game day experiences. Start planning your big night at the game by calling 801-355-DUNK, emailing group sales at utahjazz.com, or simply visiting utahjazz.com.
The murder of 2 men forces their families to wrestle with impossible questions. Who is forgiveness for? Does everyone deserve a second chance? Follow Season 2 of The Letter, Ripple Effect, at theletterpodcast.com or wherever you get your podcasts.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Sinclair's DinoPay app. Save up to 20 cents per gallon. And here's Ricky Meese.
For those who are traveling, I-15, you do have a good drive in front of you, northbound, southbound, problem-free in Weber, Davis, Salt Lake, and Utah counties. It's been just a little busy southbound I-15 at Roy in the construction. That's it. Looking at a good drive on the rest of your freeways. Teens can get up to $200 with a Teen Learn and Earn account, plus continue earning rewards as they master the essentials of finance. More at cypresscu.com/teen. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
Above normal temperatures today, high around 60, then mostly cloudy, 57 tomorrow. Now, Sunday will be colder with rain and snow likely. 55 degrees, mostly cloudy right now. I'm Dan Bomas from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com for Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
And welcome back to Inside Sources. I'm Greg Skordas, and as you probably know, I'm an attorney. I've practiced law here in the state of Utah for 42 years, and every once in a while, as attorneys, we are called upon to handle cases from different jurisdictions, different states, different parts of the country, and I'm only admitted in Utah, but I had the privilege this week of attending a case and representing an individual who was prosecuted in Washington, D.C. And so I had to get admitted to the Washington bar. I had to get sponsored by a Washington lawyer. Went back to Washington and actually spent 3 days there this week representing one of the January 6 rioters, one of the insurrectionists. And I was doing a little bit of research, and I won't talk about the specifics of my case. I think that would be inappropriate. But it got me thinking a lot about where we've come, because in just 2 months, that will have been a 4-year-old incident. And I think that we have sort of, I don't know that we've forgotten about it. That will never happen. But it seems to have been downplayed a lot. I mean, I think 4 years ago, after the January 6th insurrection, no one would have guessed that we would reelect Donald Trump because of his alleged involvement with that. And if you recall the big investigation into that, a lot of people felt that Donald Trump was in fact involved. We had that whole inquiry that was done, really that whole ethics commission and panel into the January 6th, the inquiry really ended up pointing a lot of fingers at Donald Trump. And as I look at some of the stats in our country, 55% of voters looking at that event, even now, felt like it was an attack on democracy. 55%. To me, that seems like a low number. 43% believe that focus on that has been excessive. So, the numbers have changed. The way that we've dealt with that has changed over the years. And when you look at it as it relates to Democrats and Republicans, among Republicans, 72% felt it was time to move on from January 6th and just forget about it. And 86% of Democrats said you can never forget. So going back to January 6th, and let me just read you some stats that have occurred, and this was really interesting. And, I had to appear before a judge who was sentencing this individual, and the government was there. It was a big courtroom in D.C., very impressive. I mean, it was a courthouse and a courtroom I'd never been in before, and I would love to go back. The Capitol was different. The whole Washington D.C. area was different than I'd remembered, and I haven't been there for a few years. There were actually some no trespassing signs up at the Capitol in anticipation of this year's inauguration, hoping that we wouldn't have the same, insurrection. And of course, there's little or no chance of that this year, just based on the way the election turned out. As of November 2024. 1,542 individuals have been charged with offenses stemming from the Capitol riots. So I thought the number was 1,600 was the last number I heard. 1,542 people have been charged in connection with the January 6th insurrection. That's a big number. 999 of those have pled guilty. Now, that would be 1,000, including my kid. But 999 have pled guilty, and 174 have been convicted on all charges. So not very many people, if you consider almost 1,600 charged, 174 convicted. That's like 1 in 10 that went to trial and were convicted on all charges. Only 3 have been acquitted, and about 1,030 have been sentenced already. So, a lot of people, this is very... it's been 4 years. You would expect that we'd have almost everything done. But as I was looking at some of the videos and some of the evidence that the government had in this case, this was a case that would have been hard to solve 20 years ago when everybody wasn't using their cell phones to videotape everything or to record everything. And, we just had records after records after records. And it was interesting to watch the government as it presented its case to the judge. They had pictures of my client, and they sort of followed him as he walked around. There were so many cameras and so many positions and so many angles that you could see things that they had a very, very solid case. Now here's another issue that we had to deal with in the case, and that we're going to deal with. Trump has indicated, he's promised, that he's going to pardon what he calls these political prisoners. Now, can he do that? Absolutely. He has complete pardon authority, or he will once he's president. And people talk about, well, what about his own cases? Well, I don't want to get into the weeds on that too much, but he had 2 federal cases and 2 state cases. A president of the United States has no authority or jurisdiction to pardon an individual convicted or charged with a state crime. However, they have complete carte blanche to pardon individuals convicted of federal crimes. And this is another nuance. I'll get into the weeds just a tiny bit here. In the state court, especially in Utah, state cases, an individual is eligible for an expungement. And that's a long process. It can take years. You can also go to the Board of Pardons at some point and try to get your record cleared. If you're convicted of a federal felony in the United States of America, the only way you can get that off your record is if the President of the United States grants you a pardon. There's no expungement process. There's no going to your senator. There's no 20 years of good behavior. The only way you can get a federal felony off your record in the United States is for a presidential pardon. And those don't happen every day. I mean, those are quite rare. They take some time. Is Trump going to pardon 1,564 individuals when he takes office here? I don't know if he'll do that. I mean, that would be difficult for him politically, but let's also think of it from the other end. He's not going to run for office again. He can't. He's going to take office. He's already made some controversial picks. We talked about those early in the show today for his attorney general, for some other offices that he's looking at. Very controversial picks. So I think he's looking at this as, this is my last term. This is my hurrah. This is my going away. I've got 4 years to do whatever I want. And if he pardons 1,500 people, what political backlash does he suffer? None, because he's not going to run again. And is that going to look bad for the Republicans? I don't know. I mean, Biden's probably going to pardon some people here in the next couple months, including perhaps, we'll see, his own son. which, it's just something presidents do. And I think Trump pardoned a few people when he was president before. I remember one of the Kardashians was talking to him about pardoning somebody, and he did. I mean, it happens all the time. I've requested presidential pardons on behalf of clients in the past. Just, you think about a person who's done something bad. They've lived a good life for 20 years, and they still have this felony hanging over their head. And it's just a horrible thing to have if you're going to college, wanting to ever possess a firearm. Let's say you want to take your kids hunting someday and you got a felony. You can't do it. You can't possess a firearm usually. So, yeah, I mean, it's a different process. But we're talking about something different here. Talking about the January 6th insurrection, what happens to those individuals? Well, what happened to the kid I represented? He was just a boy, just really a child, 21 years old at the time that it occurred. And what will happen with him, I don't know. Trump will certainly take office, but he's made the pledge. He's made the promise. He said, these are political prisoners, and I'm going to pardon them, even though it's sort of the rank and file people of the United States are kind of going, well, wait a minute, is that something we really want to do? Again, I think he'll do it. So we also have this. There are a number of people that haven't been sentenced yet. They haven't even gone to trial yet. They're still fighting their cases. What happens to those? You know what I mean? What happens to the people who have been charged with being involved in the January 6th insurrection, and they're still going to trial? Is the Justice Department, is Trump's next Attorney General, Pam Bondi, going to prosecute these people? Is she going to even have any desire to do that? Now, the Justice Department has said right now they're going full steam ahead on all of these people. But the Justice Department on November 22nd, 24 is an entirely different Justice Department than we're going to have on January 22nd, 2025. And so I don't know whether they'll even prosecute those individuals. I think it's difficult for the poor prosecutors who've been working these cases for 4 years to suddenly be told, hey, just kidding, we're not doing this, and we're not prosecuting these cases. So, wow, that'll be interesting to see what happens, and we'll know the answer to that here in a couple of months. When we come back after the break, we've talked a lot and over the last couple of months about death penalty cases here in Utah, nationally. There was an interesting one that happened in Alabama recently. We want to talk about that after the break.
Food brings people together, but many families don't know where their next meal is coming from. In Utah, 317,000 people, many of whom are children, are struggling with food insecurity. And Macy's is continuing the tradition of bringing hope to families in need. You can help provide hope by donating to Macy's Harvest of Hope Drive, now through November 30th. All donations will be donated to a local food bank to serve families in our communities. Purchase an icon for any amount or a prepackaged bag of food with items that food pantries need most at any Macy's store or online at Macys.com. Look for items tagged with the Harvest of Hope icon throughout the store. A portion of sales from those items will also be donated to local food pantries. Together, we can make a difference in our communities and provide hope to families and children facing food insecurity. Visit Macys.com or your local Macy's grocery store to learn more.
Don't be worried, be ready.
KSL News Radio has partnered with Be Ready Utah to provide the plans your family needs for an emergency, the tools and supplies to keep on hand, and the knowledge on how to keep a cool head.
It's Be Ready Utah. Listen to our show, Dave and Dujanovic, for Be Ready tips and tools.
Or you can always find the latest preparation info at BeReadyUtah.gov.
Be Ready Utah with KSL News Radio.
Febreze. So my home is also my office, and before I can focus, every room's gotta be clean. That means tidying up, then spraying my Febreze Air Mist. Ooh, that's fresh. Febreze Air Mist scents are all high quality. They fight any weird funk, and they give my air an instant boost of freshness. So not only does my home smell good, I feel good too. After I Febreze, it's time to start my day. Breathe happy, Febreze, la 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 la. Febreze. So my home is also my office, and before I can focus, every room's gotta be clean. That means tidying up, then spraying my Febreze Air Mist. Ooh, that's fresh. Febreze Air Mist scents are all high quality. They fight any weird funk, and they give my air an instant boost of freshness. So not only does my home smell good, I feel good too. After I Febreze, it's time to start my day. Breathe happy, Febreze, la 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 la.
You know, it's hard to believe that Dee and I have now been living in our new house for about 9 years now. You know, the thing that has really surprised me is how many appliances we have had to have work on and even replace. You know, the one that we haven't replaced, haven't done any work on at all, have not had a minute's trouble with, it's the Connecticut soft water system. And it's so interesting because when we were building the home, the builder said, okay, well, what do you want for a water softener? And I just interrupted. I said, wait, we're going to go with Connecticut. And they just smiled at me like, yeah, we know about Connecticut. Never once have we had an issue with our Connecticut soft water system, not only in our new home, but in our previous home as well. It just sits there in the basement, does its job, does it so much more efficiently than any other soft water system out there on the market today. Why don't you give them a call, 801-576-8600, or go to softwaterutah.com.
This is Derek Overstreet of the New Millennium Group and host of Stop Working and Start Living Radio. If you're close to or in retirement and you don't have a tax plan, call us right now, 888-999-6370. That's 888-999-6370. Listen, our country's been spending like never before, and the tax bill is coming soon. If you need an income tax strategy and a financial plan that will get you through the rest of your life, give my team a call, 888-999-6370. That's 888-999-6370. If you want an investment plan that allows you to keep more of your gains and pay less taxes, give us a call, 888-999-6370. My team specializes in the type of plan that will get you retired 3 to 5 years sooner than you thought possible. So, get a no-cost tax analysis by calling 888-999-6370. That's 888-999-6370. My team is standing by now.
Any Hour Services can help you make sure your furnace keeps you warm this winter. Whether you need a tune-up, a repair, or a second opinion about replacing it, call Any Hour Services or visit anyhourservices.com.
When it comes to vaping, the truth can get clouded. So let's make it clear. Vaping is not safe for youth.
Because vaping can put microscopic particles into your lungs.
And dangerous things like metals into your body.
And nicotine, which can harm a person's brain development through their mid-20s.
With appealing flavors, high nicotine levels, and lots of promotion on social media,
many kids think vaping is harmless, but it's not.
So talk to your kids about the risks of vaping.
Because when you talk, they hear you.
Learn more at underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
With the 3 things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bonas. First, winter weather will be arriving in Utah this weekend. Second, in Texas, school children will be getting Bible stories as part of their regular lessons. And third, Ogden's Union Station marking its 100th anniversary. 55 degrees, partly cloudy in Salt Lake City. And back to Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Do you think a person has the right to give their last words, to make their last remarks as they're about to be executed? We often see that. We see it in movies. We see it in TV. Remember that movie, that great Clint Eastwood movie, Hang 'em High? And they sort of went down the list of all the people that were standing there on the gallows as they were about to be hung, and they all got to say their last words to the crowd. We had a recent death penalty execution in Alabama that really sparked some debate and discussion as to the importance of an inmate's final words. Before we get to that, let's discuss this a little bit about the case itself. And this is what we learned about the case from ABC's Chuck Sievertson.
Carrie Grayson, convicted in the 1994 killing of a hitchhiker, cursed at the prison warden and made obscene gestures with his hands before he was put to death Thursday evening in Atmore, Alabama, under a mask replacing oxygen with nitrogen gas. He was 50. The state prison's chief says it took about 10 minutes for an electrocardiogram to show Grayson's heart stopped. The victim's daughters spoke out against the execution, calling it murdering inmates under the guise of justice.
So this was an unusual form of execution. In Alabama, they use nitrogen gas. I mean, that's something we don't think about very much. But I mean, different states can do it however they want. In Alabama, they use nitrogen gas. And like they said, this case kind of got some interest because, let's face it, we have executions probably once or twice a month in this country, maybe more. This one got some interest because he wasn't able to give his last words except that what the ABC reporter just said. But backing up just a little bit, this was a homicide that occurred in February of 1994. 37-year-old woman was walking. She was hitchhiking, Vicki Linda Blue, from Chattanooga to Louisiana. She accepted a ride from this kid named Carrie Dale Grayson and 3 other kids. They were all 19, 20 years old at the time. She accepted a ride from them. 4 days later, she was found dead, having been thrown off a cliff. They prosecuted all of the individuals, and I don't know what happened to the other 3, but we know that Carrie Grayson was sort of seen as the ringleader in this. He was convicted. He was put on Alabama's death row, and I mean, we talk about how long sometimes these things take. This one took 30 years from the time of the crime until he was executed by nitrogen gas. So the warden, as you would expect, goes up to him, and he's got the microphone there, and he says, do you have any last words? And the guy just goes off on the warden and the prison and makes an obscene gesture, makes a lot of vulgar remarks, and the warden says, okay, that's it, we're done. We're not going to let you give your last words. Or he sort of says those were your last words. Grayson's attorney said, wait a minute, he had a lot more to say. He wanted to apologize to the people of Alabama. He wanted to apologize to the victim's family. He wanted to talk about what he'd learned in the meantime and maybe tell young people, don't go down this road. He was never allowed to do that. Do you have a right to last words? No, you don't. I mean, it's just something that we do in this country, is you allow death penalty inmates their last words. And, they also have the last meal, and Grayson did get his last meal. He wanted Mexican food. I mean, it's just, I don't know, it's kind of a macabre thing that we do. You present somebody as if they're about to die with some last sort of wishes, last words, last meal, last visit with family. I guess to make what some people call an inhumane act as humane as you could imagine. In fact, this one had also a different twist, in that the victim's daughter, Jody Haley, was present at the prison, and she said that her mom would not have wanted this execution. She talked about her mom. She said she was spontaneous, she was fun, she was unique, she was pretty, but this didn't warrant the death penalty. And she talked about in fact, this is the victim's daughter talking about the man that killed her mother, saying, he was abused in his lifetime. He had cigarettes put out on his skin. He was facing physical and sexual abuse. He was thrown out on the streets as an adolescent. I mean, he had nothing going for him. And she sort of blames the system that he fell through the cracks. And no wonder he was just somebody out there doing such violent acts. He just never had a chance. So she argued against it. She was upset about it. That's not something you see. In fact, we see a lot of times where victims are sort of standing at the gates constantly. They're at the Board of Pardons every 4 or 5 years when the individual is up for whether he's going to be pardoned or not, or whether any part of his sentence is going to be not executed, and trying to get him out of that. So this one was a little bit different. But I guess it was interesting because he didn't get to give his last words. And again, it's just not something you have the right to do. It made me also think about this. We talk about Utah. We had this Tabarone Honey execution a couple of months ago, and I think that his homicide occurred in 1999. So he had been on Utah's death row for what was 25 years. We've got the Ralph Menzies case that we're dealing with today. Literally today, we're having psychologists and psychiatrists talk to a judge about whether or not he's competent to face the death penalty, because in America, you can't be executed unless you appreciate 2 things. One, why you're being executed, and the purpose of it, the sort of the public aspect of it, that you committed a crime, and this is what happens when you do that. They're debating that. That case occurred in, I think, 1997. People are saying, whoa, those are really long. Well, this case is in Alabama. You wouldn't expect Alabama to be a particularly soft on crime state, but this crime occurred in 1994, so it was 30 years old. When the inmate was executed, this Grayson, he was 50, so he would have been 19 or 20 at the time of the death. And you're really talking about, and I'll get off my box a little bit after this, you're really talking about a different person committing the crime when he's 19 or 20 years old and then suffering the consequences when he's 50. Nonetheless, It's the law of the land in, I think, something like 37 states that still carry out the death penalty. The federal government has reinstated it in federal cases, although, as you might expect, there weren't a lot of death penalty cases. I think one during the Biden administration because he didn't favor the death penalty, and his Justice Department didn't pursue death penalty cases. A lot of prisons and wardens and such were sort of standing down on the whole federal death penalty thing. Trump's coming in January. He's more in favor of the death penalty. We're going to have more federal death penalty cases. Utah's got only like 7 or 8 individuals on death row right now. We've only executed, at least in my 40-plus years of practice, about that same number of individuals. It's not something that's done, it's taken lightly. It's not something that's done by prosecutors because, they're heavy-handed. It's something that's rarely done. And it's something that will always be controversial. I think a lot of countries look at America and say, you're so advanced in so many ways and you're so progressive in so many ways, but you still are carrying out the death penalty, which, of course, it's not going away. It's certainly not going to go away with a Trump administration. It's not going to go away with a Republican House and Senate nationally and locally because it's still popular with the people. Remember, if you miss out on any of our shows or you love a particular segment so much that you want to hear it again, you can find our full shows and individual segments posted online after each show. You can find us on kslpodcast.com or wherever you get your podcasts. Just search for Inside Sources. This show is a little bit shorter. We're going to take some recent discussions from our shows that we had earlier this week and fill the next hour. But don't go away. Inside Sources is still going. And further, Jeff Kaplan will be here at 3. Thanks for listening today.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
It's 2 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Dan Bomas. KSL's top story this hour. Today you could probably get away with a jacket, but temperatures are going to drop over the weekend from the upper 50s tomorrow to down into the 40s by Sunday. And we could get some significant weather by Saturday evening.
Out of this first hit of the storm, we could see anywhere from 12 to 18 inches for our cottonwoods. And then for the Wasatch Back, we could see 4 to 8 inches of snow. So it should be a good snowmaker for us.
That's KSL meteorologist Kristen Van Dyke, who says our valleys will see more of a rain-snow mix, but still a lot of water coming as an atmospheric river arrives from California. 3 children from Utah have been missing for 2 years, have been located in Arizona, living with members of the Fundamentalist Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. The Fredonia Police Department says it suspected the father had orchestrated the disappearance of the children. The children are back with their mother. The investigation is ongoing. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. The owners of a funeral home near Colorado Springs, who allegedly piled up bodies and didn't process them for burial or cremation, have now pleaded guilty to both state and federal charges in that case. It came to light when police got calls of a bad smell coming from the mortuary. The Return to Nature funeral home had given families dry concrete in place of human remains. Your money at this moment, the Dow Jones average up on the day now, 426 points. As we approach the close of trading, NASDAQ is up 31. And our KSL weather, looks like that storm is headed our way. That's next. KSL News Time 201.
It's a priority for us at this station to bring you all sides of a story and to talk about the news fairly, completely.
Get all the facts and be really aware. Utah's Morning News with us, Tim and Amanda.
Weekday mornings 5 to 9 on KSL News Radio.
The impact of a meal goes well beyond feeding our bodies, because when people don't have to worry about where their next meal is coming from, they can truly thrive, like Marta.
And now we'll hear from our class valedictorian, who with our hard work never ceases to amaze us. Please welcome Marta Moreno.
And Alex.
Hey, Alex, how did the interview go?
I did it! I got the job! I can't believe it!
I knew it. Let's meet up later to celebrate.
And Diego.
Mom! I got first place at the science fair with my volcano project.
That's amazing, sweetie. Congratulations.
Because when people are fed, futures are nourished, and everyone deserves to live a full life. Join the movement to end hunger at feedingamerica.org/actnow. feedingamerica.org/actnow. A public service announcement brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
Winter's on the way. Soon the snow will be falling where? On your roof. If you need a new one, now's the time to call IWC Roofing. See, the shingle companies raise prices January 1st, but IWC will lock in this year's prices, even if you want your new roof next spring. And if you book now, they'll also give you an extra $2,000 off. $2,000 off IWC's already low prices. As the #1 residential roofing contractor in Utah, they get volume discounts on shingles and pass the savings on to you. Plus $2,000 off, and you lock in this year's prices. IWC is one of the very few Owens Corning Platinum certified roofers in the state. Their precision teams are so skilled they'll re-roof your home in a single day. They'll send you pictures from the roof so you know exactly what you're getting, and then they'll power wash your driveway just to say thanks. Call now, 801-232-5690. That's 801-232-5690, or go to IWCRoofingUtah.com.
How's the water where you live? Depending on where you live in Utah, the water coming out of your tap might be really hard and not taste very good. It might be leaving spots on your glasses and shower and leaving your skin dry.
We want you to know our friends at Superior Water and Air have solutions for your home and your business, by the way. They have the best, most efficient water softeners in Utah, but not only that, they also have water purifiers that will give your family crystal clear drinking water.
And if you're still using those big unsanitary water bottles in your office, let Superior hook you up to a more convenient, trusted water system.
When you think of Superior Water and Air, think of solutions for everything in your home, from plumbing to water heaters to furnaces and air conditioning, and of course those great home standby generators.
To keeping the air in your home as healthy as possible, especially during these inversions. I had Superior install 2 things in my home that have helped us so much. We have an air purifier and a humidifier hooked right up to our furnace.
Call Superior today, 974-9090, or go to superiorwaterandair.com.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Sinclair's DinoPay app. Save up to 20 cents per gallon. And here's Ricky Meese.
Right now, I'm looking for a new accident called out in the South Weber area, northbound Highway 89, about 8200 south. So far, I'm not seeing it in the cameras, but UDOT is reporting that 2 right lanes of traffic are blocked. We've also had some heavy and slow traffic on southbound I-15, and that is as you're making your way from 31st Street Ogden down to 5600 South Roy. Stay hydrated with Relight Hydration, packed with essential electrolytes, trace minerals, zero sugar, and great taste. Relight stands out from other hydration options. Relight is available at Harmons or Redmond.com. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
Look for above normal temperatures today, but tomorrow a little below, a 57 for the high, and then Sunday we'll be back to November weather with rain and snow likely. And right now, 54 degrees, mostly cloudy. I'm Dan Bomas from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
You're listening to an encore presentation of Inside Sources. Inside Sources. Inside Sources. A new presidency, new state leaders, and a new legislative session. Utah's top political experts discuss the day's biggest stories. Only on KSL News Radio. Eye on the Hill 2024. Special coverage on KSL News Radio.
Welcome back to our second hour of Inside Sources. I'm Adam Gardner here with Taylor Morgan. We have a treat today for the next couple of segments. We have 2 of the very lesser-known members of the House of Representatives. Just kidding. I'm getting bad looks from some of them. No, we have 2 great friends of the show, great friends in general. Democrat State Representative Andrew Stoddard representing Murray, Midvale, and Sandy. And then we have State Representative Casey Snyder, a Republican from Cache Valley.
thanks so much to both of you for being here. If you want to take like 10 seconds, I know you have to do this often in town hall meetings, but take 10 seconds and introduce yourselves to the listeners.
Yeah, and I'd actually defer to my colleague here to the left. As you know, in recent elections, Democrats are largely known for word salad. So I'm going to give him whatever time he needs.
Shots fired right off the top.
So Andrew Stoddard here. Thanks for having me. Came in the same time as Casey, so we're coming up on our 4th term. Work as an attorney during the day, and I represent real people, not just animals up in Cache Valley. So,
and I appreciate that, and I actually appreciate the respect you give my constituents. So thank you for that. But yes, Representative Casey Snyder. I've been in the legislature now, the same as Andrew, and just happy to be here, happy to have a discussion on these topics.
Yeah, and both of you, of course, is we have fun here in studio, jabs back and forth. We love that. You two really, I think, in my experience with the legislature, have set a really positive tone. I think there's always room for healthy debate, healthy conversation, and disagreement, and that's something that we really want to highlight here on the new Inside Sources. Talking about issues that we're going to disagree on, and we hope we disagree, right? I mean, I could say that Andrew Stoddard has probably the ugliest logo in all of Utah politics.
Fact.
And he probably disagrees with that, I would assume, Representative Stoddard.
I do, yes.
Okay.
I strongly disagree.
Okay, but let's start here. I want to start with an issue that is front and center for me. I have a bias on this that I'll disclose as executive director of Count My Vote, the organization that helped establish the signature path to the primary ballot in Utah 10 years ago. I have a bias when it comes to our elections. And with that disclosure made, I want to get into some of the discussions around election process reform in the state of Utah. We have heard that the legislature, and particularly the House of Representatives, your body, is going to consider changes to voting by mail. It may also propose changes, significant changes to the state elections office by creating a new independent state elections office. Let's start here, if we can, with Representative Casey Snyder. You serve as Assistant Majority Whip, and what can you tell us? Where is leadership on these issues, and what are you hoping to accomplish?
No, first and foremost, thank you. And as we're declaring our biases here, as a member of the majority party in this state, I have a bias towards being right most of the time. So that's my own personal bias in this. But joking aside, as I look at elections, our systems of elections live or die by the confidence people give in them. And I believe that whatever we can do, whatever steps we can take to, peel behind the curtain a little bit and show people that their vote matters, that it counts, that elections are fair, anything we can do in that vein, I think we should support. And I think that's what is at the heart of what we're trying to do next session.
Yeah. Representative Stoddard, what is your position on some of the proposed election reforms?
Yeah, I mean, we obviously know that Utah has likely the best run elections in the country. I don't have a problem with letting people see how it works. The problem I have is that we give people a platform to deny our elections. I mean, you look at a lot of our colleagues up on the Hill and the things they're trying to do and the things they're trying to say, and casting doubt on our system just causes a lot of problem for our civil servants.
So, okay, I want to hit on something that you just said, because we just had a very contentious gubernatorial race, and you had one of the candidates who won in convention and then lost handily in a primary, who all along has been saying that this is a rigged system, the election was stolen. If the legislature does something or makes changes, how do you balance out, we want to show you that it's fair and that every vote counts and that we run a really good system, versus we're also very concerned about what you said, that there's so much fraud that we have to prove that there's not. So how do you find that line of not looking like you're catering to the craziest or the fringe of the parties? How do you walk that line?
I mean, I think you start by looking at the root problem here, and I think what it is our caucus convention system, where you've got a system that is so out of touch with the general electorate that it continues to put forth candidates that espouse these extreme ideas, and given the nomination out of convention, have the platform to do that. I think we need a system that more fully represents the people. And I think by doing that, we won't have these candidates that continue to push forth lies.
Let's give Representative Snyder a chance to respond to that, because I know House leadership has proposed potential reforms to the caucus convention path or the dual path. Do you want to speak to that at all, Representative Snyder?
Yeah, and I can speak to that maybe. So in terms of specific policies, look, we're 6 weeks or more still away from the general session starting. So I don't know that we can.
That's a lifetime.
In politics, it really is. And so I don't know that I can speak to any particulars, but I would say just a couple of things. I don't, and this is where we're going to disagree maybe from the get-go here, I don't believe that the caucus convention system is the problem. I think it has a lot of merit, and I can actually say that with enough degree of confidence because I was actually a Bennett staffer when now Senator Mike Lee beat my boss. So I lost my job over the caucus convention system and still see value in it in terms of how it engages. Now, the rhetoric and the tone, that can be adjusted, but I don't think fundamentally it has an issue. But that said, as we're looking at improving the election system without really catering, which is the word, I think we do it through a fair and transparent process. I think that's why you had the 3 major statewide candidates submit recommendations for the audit, which the legislature passed. And that audit did find some discrepancies. It did not say anything should change. It did not show anything that was glaringly, wrong, but there's some things that we can fix along the way, and anything that we can do to improve the system based on facts that are identified in a non-biased way, I think we should act on those.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's stay here. I want to follow up on the caucus convention process because we've heard a lot of talk from Republicans and leadership about transparency and fairness and security when it comes to our elections. Yet the caucus convention process, and in theory, I think it's great. I'm a precinct chair. It's something I've always participated in, but it is not transparent. It is not accountable. We have no idea if delegates go to convention, let alone how they vote at convention. There's zero accountability or transparency into the parties because they're private organizations in that process. So how do we reconcile wanting more and more security and transparency with the signatures, but yet we're letting the party do anything with caucus convention?
Well, I'll share my secrets with you if you make Representative Stoddard promise he's not going to burden the whole system down. Can you commit to that?
I already have a bill file open, which does just that, so I cannot make a commitment.
Oh, wow. Breaking news here on KSL News Radio.
Some people just like to watch the world burn. I've heard that quote before. I think there's some separation here, and this is probably a broader philosophical question as we move forward, right? So what level of engagement should the state have, right? These are private organizations. Where is that line? Now, we live in a two-party system, and clearly the courts have ruled that there is an avenue for the state to engage. I don't know that I could speak to where that's at right now. And again, we don't have any particulars of legislation, but I do believe in the system. I do believe that we have a good system as long as people engage in it.
Yeah. Well, appreciate that. We will continue this conversation here on KSL News Radio Inside Sources, coming up right after the break here in studio with Representative Casey Snyder and Representative Andrew Stoddard. Stay right here.
BYU's season comes down to sudden death. Now it's a one-game season. Beat Arizona State for a path to the championship game.
Moa running hard, 15 and 12-yard line for Sione Moa.
This Saturday, it's do or die. BYU, Arizona State. KSL special extended pregame starts Saturday at 11, and kickoff is at 1:30 on Utah's legacy home of the Cougars. KSL News Radio.
Not to brag, but Progressive's Name Your Price tool is mankind's greatest tool ever. Even better than the wheel. Sure, without the wheel, we wouldn't have modern transportation or funny videos of dogs riding skateboards. But without the Name Your Price tool, we wouldn't have easy access to auto insurance options based on our budget. And, well, cars do need wheels. They also need insurance, and insurance never goes flat. Learn more about the greatest tool ever, the Name Your Price tool at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law. Not available in all states.
Why choose a Sleep Number smart bed?
Can I make my side softer?
Can I make my side firmer?
Can we sleep cooler?
Sleep Number does that. Cools up to 8 times faster and lets you choose your ideal comfort on either side. Your Sleep Number setting. And now, during our Black Friday sale, save 50% on the Sleep Number limited edition smart bed. Plus free home delivery when you add a base. And Cyber Monday. To find a store near you, visit sleepnumber.com.
trail mix, beef jerky, mixing all the soda flavors at the gas station soda machine. Snacks are better on the road. The gas is better when it's top tier. And the pit stop is better when there's a dinosaur there. Love the filler moments at a Sinclair gas station near you with DinoCare, our top-tier gasoline. Some sweet and salty snacks for the commute, and a big green dino for the memories. Find a gas station near you at sinclairoil.com. Sinclair, fill up your life.
Cindy Olsen here for Dave's Bernina's huge Black Friday week sale at their Provo and St. George stores, featuring 1.99% up to 60 months financing on certain models. Burnett sewing machine start at only $249. Buy the Bernina B700E for only $2,999. Save $2,000. The Bernina 735 is discounted and includes thousands of dollars of free accessories while supplies last. How about a free embroidery module if you purchase a B570 QE or B770 QE Plus? Black Friday weekend doorbuster specials, $99 walking fee for the first 10 customers, incredible accessory deals, and a limited supply of Bernina 3, 4, 5, and 7 series machines. Offered at prices too low to mention. Fantastic bargains on trade-in machines and Q20 quilters. Black Friday week at Dave's Bernina, 691 East St. George Boulevard and 2017 North 550 West in Provo. Come see the Bernina 990, the most amazing revolutionary sewing machine in the world.
Americans love using their credit cards, the most secure and hassle-free way to pay. But D.C. politicians want to change that with the Durbin-Marshall credit card bill. This bill lets corporate megastores pick how your credit card is processed, allowing them to use untested payment networks that jeopardize your data security and rewards. Corporate megastores will make more money, and you pay the price. Tell Congress to guard your card, because Americans lose when politicians choose. Learn more at guardyourcard.com. Paid for by the Electronic Payments Coalition.
One of the things with running is I want to enjoy the run, but I never made it very far because the arches in my feet just killed me. So when I got to the end of my rope and I said I have to do something to get rid of the pain, and a couple people recommended the Good Feet store to me. I loved how I could go in and get a free personalized arch support fitting. They put that time, that work, that effort into helping you find the right arch supports. And you can walk around this store with these in your shoes and try them out before you purchase them. So after I got my arch supports, the arches on my feet stopped hurting and the pain instantly, literally instantly went away. So if you have pain, go. Find a Good Feet store and go. There is an answer. Find the simple solution that will get rid of your pain. I'm Rondi, and that's my Good Feet story.
See how Good Feet arch supports work for you before you buy with a free fitting and test walk at the Good Feet store.
The Good Feet store. Walk-ins welcome, or visit goodfeet.com for more information.
Common Spirit Health. Hospitals, clinics, and caregivers all connected to advance healthcare in Colorado, Kansas, and Utah. Healthcare with human kindness is here. Hello, human kindness.
With the three things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bomas. First, Utah's mountains will be getting a big hit of snow this weekend with rain and snow expected on the Wasatch Front. Second, some Utah kids have been missing for 2 years. Turned out to be living with members of the FLDS Church in Arizona. Third, a couple in Colorado accused of letting bodies pile up in their mortuary have pleaded guilty to state and federal charges. 53 degrees, mostly cloudy in Salt Lake City. And back to Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
You're listening to an encore presentation of Inside Sources. Eye on the Hill 2024. Special coverage on KSL News Radio.
Welcome back to the new KSL Inside Sources. I am Taylor Morgan alongside Adam Gardner. Adam, we are just about 6 weeks away from the next Utah General Legislative Session. However, as we know, the business happens now. It happens year-round. In fact, interim meetings are happening right now up on Utah's Capitol Hill, and we are very fortunate to be joined in studio by Representative Andrew Stoddard, a Democrat in the Utah House, and Representative Casey Snyder, a Republican in the House. And we have had a great conversation about elections and some other issues, and we're going to continue the conversation with Representative Stoddard and Snyder here by starting with housing affordability. According to the latest polling, Adam, the number one issue among all Utah voters, regardless of age, regardless of political party, the number one issue Utah voters say they are most concerned about right now is housing affordability. And so we'll start with Representative Stoddard. What are your thoughts on housing affordability, and is there any legislation in the works from Utah Democrats in the House or your Republican colleagues that you would support that would really help address this issue of housing affordability in Utah?
Yeah, no, it's a huge issue. I know where I live, we've got a range of different housing options, apartments, multifamily living, single-family homes. And I think that's the way to do it. And, I'm not aware of anything that our caucus specifically is doing, but we're not run by developers like the other caucuses up in the legislature.
Ooh, okay.
But it is an issue. And I think it's a very interesting issue because there's so many layers. You have to look at like city level zoning. You have to look at state level. What can we do to help the economy? Because we obviously want to grow. We want people to come here, but we also want to make sure that it's affordable and people can stay here.
Yeah. Representative Snyder.
I'm still a little upset by the comment that was made, but I'm going to go back to my core, and I'm going to let freedom guide me, which is what my party generally believes in. But as I sort of look at the next legislative session, I think, at least in part, large part maybe, the housing issue is a private property rights issue, right? If there is a demand in the market, then there should be somebody on the private property side who has a piece of ground, who has all the infrastructure to build. They should be able to move through a permitting process and put something on the ground. Now, the friction that we've seen the last couple of sessions, which I suspect we're going to continue to see moving into the next general session, is between local control and what locals want in their community and this broader housing crisis, this broader housing need that you're talking about right now. And that's probably the friction that'll continue. I don't know how you get around that, but I do think, at least in part, the building of more houses, and I have no skin in the development game, is got to be part of the discussion.
Okay, I like that you brought that up, the local control issue. What I'm seeing with cities is most cities, there are some I would agree that are not complying with what the state is asking them to do. But most cities are trying their best, and there's two major problems that I see. One is infrastructure. The more you have to build out, especially in Salt Lake County, if you have to build clear out west to the mine, there's no infrastructure out there, and cities right now are not capable of building that infrastructure by themselves. And so that's very expensive, and they need the state's help. Here's the second issue that I see, and I would love to hear if there's any way to solve this. I know that Representative Clancy has been talking about having a bill on this issue, is folks will come, developers will come to a city, and they'll say, hey, we want to build 70 lots right here. And by the way, this fits in with what the state is asking you to do, to put in multiple houses per acre. Instead of just these quarter-acre lots, they're going to be a tenth of an acre. They're going to be detached housing. They're going to have garage. They're going to be everything that you guys want, but they're on a sliver of the ground, 70 houses. And so the city says, okay, this is compliant. We have the infrastructure here. Let's totally do it. Developer, go ahead. And then once everything is entitled, a developer will then sell to a corporation who will buy all 70 of those lots, and they'll make them all rentals. And so it'll be $3,000 a month to rent. And now you're helping with the supply issue of people need a place to live. So you're doing that. But I don't think anyone that can actually afford $3,000 on their mortgage wants to rent. And so cities are kind of stuck. Like, we're trying to comply with the state, but also, what do we do? How do we prevent this? We have no tools in our toolkit. Is there a way to prevent this? I'll go Representative Snyder to you.
No, it has to be part of the discussion, right? And entitled lots is a legitimate concern. So are the either second homes or Airbnbs in resort communities. Right. You go look at what's happening in St. George right now. A house comes on the market. I bet you 9 times out of 10, the person that buys that house is not somebody with a young family who wants their first home in St. George. And that's part of the problem. So I know there's going to be discussions on that space as we get closer to the legislative session. We'll see what the words are on paper. But I think the legislature is cognizant of that, and I think it's certainly something we have to talk about.
Yeah, appreciate that. Representative Stoddard?
Yeah, and it's a hard issue because, as Representative Snyder mentioned, you're running up against people's property rights. But we do want to make sure that's affordable. And for those people who are crazy enough to want to live in somewhere hot like St. George, we want to make sure that they're able to, and they're not paying these exorbitant prices. I look at my own house, which I've been there 11 years, and with what it's valued at now, I couldn't afford it. Yeah. And I think a lot of people are in that same situation.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, I want to pivot a bit, and I want to talk about the outlook of the Utah legislature going into this 2025 session vis-a-vis the new incoming Donald Trump administration and a Republican-controlled U.S. Senate and U.S. House. How, or I guess I should ask Representative Snyder, has the development when it comes to the Republican Party's control in Washington, has that had an influence on how the Utah House leadership is approaching the upcoming session?
Well, I want you to know, and the listeners to know, that the first thing I did when Donald Trump won office was I went to my good friend, Representative Stoddard, and I wiped his tears. I did that because I care.
With a flag.
With a flag.
Yeah.
Then we flew it over the Capitol the rest of the day, and so that all aside, I think from a Republican-led legislature looking at a Republican administration and a Republican Senate and a Republican House, there's a lot of things that we want to have discussed. And when you look at our state in particular, we're in a position where a lot of the decisions are made from D.C. I wish D.C. didn't have as much influence in our state, but they do from at least a management perspective. I'm optimistic about that future. I would, however, say that one of the things that actually the colleagues from the other side have flagged, not maybe in this state, but in states like California, there's all of a sudden this reaffirmed hand waving and cheering for state rights. And I would love to be in a position as a state where it didn't matter if there was a Republican or a Democrat in Washington, we could solve the problems at a local level. I'm a big believer in the 10th Amendment and those types of things. And so whatever we do, I hope that we're looking at a long-term fix that goes in that direction.
Yeah. And Representative Stoddard, for you and your Democratic colleagues in the Utah House, has the election outcome had an impact on how you are approaching the upcoming session?
I mean, my biggest hope, we've spent so much time in past elections dealing with these culture war issues or non-issues where we're declaring our state sovereignty and all these things that really don't matter instead of solving problems for real Utahns. So, I don't think it affects us. I hope we can get to work for Utah and the people we represent.
Okay. You know what? Thanks, both of you, for being here. I hope we can make this somewhat of a regular thing. And because the banter back and forth, we talk a lot about the governor's disagree better type stuff. And I think that's all abstract. What we're seeing here is that actually in practice, there's a lot of Democrats that get bills passed that Republicans vote for. Most of the things that happen up there, 92% of them are unanimous votes. There's more that we agree on than we disagree. So thank you both so much for being here. Remember, if you miss out on any of our shows or you love a particular segment so much, like this one, that you want to hear it again, you can find our full shows and individual segments posted online after each show. And you can find us on kslpodcasts.com or wherever you get your podcasts. Just search for Inside Sources.
It's 2:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Dan Bomas. KSL's top local story this hour. A week-long hearing looking at whether Ralph Menzies is competent to be put to death is wrapped up now with a decision expected from the court later. The state argues Menzies is mentally fit, while his attorneys say decades in prison have left him with dementia. Menzies was convicted in the murder of Maureen Hunsaker in 1986. Death row inmates typically spend decades in prison with little access to social interaction, fresh air, or exercise. Robin Marr with the Death Penalty Information Center says that can leave them old and weak by the time the sentence is carried out.
Older people who have spent decades on death row, they look like our grandfathers. Not like the young, violent offenders that people think about when we think about how we use the death penalty.
The average age of the inmates on Utah's death row is 62. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. The rollout for this year's FAFSA federal student aid forms begins today. Last year's program drew criticism when the online forms turned out to be glitchy. More than 430,000 people, fewer, applied last year compared to the year before. The Department of Education says it's added hundreds more agents now to deal with the problems. Your money at this moment, the Dow Jones average closing trading today up 426 points. The NASDAQ was up 31. The S&P 500 was up 20. And our KSL weather, we've got a storm moving in come Sunday. That's next. KSL News Time, 2:32.
Here's a way to get breaking news updates anywhere you go.
At the store or in a work meeting, you can get breaking news on your phone.
You can quickly read it, swipe, or click for more. It's super discreet, super fast.
That's the app for KSL News Radio.
At Shane Company, we want you to be the holiday hero. We have so many ways to create unique, fine jewelry gifts. Give a ring or necklace with their favorite gemstone like amethyst or peachy morganite, one to match their eyes, or even pick out their favorite team colors. Customize our North Star charm with the gemstone of your choice for a reminder to follow their own path. Or create a personalized piece with zodiac, birthstone, and diamond letter charms. Visit us in store and shop online at shaneco.com. Shane Company, your friend and jeweler.
The impact of a meal goes well beyond feeding our bodies. Because when people don't have to worry about where their next meal is coming from, they can truly thrive. Like Marta.
And now we'll hear from our class valedictorian, who with our hard work never ceases to amaze us. Please welcome Marta Moreno.
And Alex.
Hey, Alex, how did the interview go?
I did it! I got the job! I can't believe it!
I knew it. Let's meet up later to celebrate.
And Diego.
Mom! I got first place at the science fair with my volcano project.
That's amazing, sweetie. Congratulations.
Because when people are fed, futures are nourished, and everyone deserves to live a full life. Join the movement to end hunger at feedingamerica.org/actnow. feedingamerica.org/actnow. A public service announcement brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
Hi, this is Kathy.
And Jason from Window World.
Jason, there's a window company giving huge discounts, saying it's the biggest sale ever.
And last month they were offering free labor. That just doesn't add up.
We don't play those games. At Window World, everyone gets the same low price every day.
No pressure, no games, and now we offer siding too.
Call Window World today, 801-281-8111 for 4 windows and a patio door for just $56.12.
And as Doug always said,
that's no baloney.
From now through the end of December, earn triple points on every purchase you make with your rewards credit card from Cyprus Credit Union. That's triple the yum as you shop for your favorite holiday dishes. Triple the excitement as you fuel up to travel over the river and through the woods. And triple the satisfaction when you find that perfect gift for a loved one. Learn more about triple points or apply for your rewards credit card at cypruscu.com. Cyprus Credit Union. Your future is our future. Equal Opportunity Lender.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Sinclair's DinoPay app. Save up to 20 cents per gallon. And here's Ricky Meese.
Salt Lake City PD wrapping up an accident 5900 west to 3rd South, northbound Highway 89. This is about halfway between the SR 193 and I-84 junctions. We have this crash in Davis County, and this is northbound on Highway 89. It's still blocking one right lane of traffic, and there are delays back to SR 193. This holiday season, Murdoch Hyundai is grateful for you. Celebrate during the Murdoch Hyundai Season of Giving sales event. Receive 0% for 4 years on the Elantra, Sonata, Tucson, or Santa Fe. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
Highs in the upper 50s today and tomorrow. Then, Saturday night, we'll see a storm move in, rain and snow likely on Sunday. And right now, 54 degrees, partly cloudy. I'm Dan Bomas from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
You're listening to an encore presentation of Inside Sources. Inside Sources. Inside Sources. A new presidency, new state leaders, and a new legislative session. Utah's top political experts discuss the day's biggest stories, only on KSL News Radio.
All right, welcome back to Inside Sources. You're here with me, Leah Murray, alongside Rusty Cannon. And Rusty, I want to talk about Generation Z. So, first of all, do you know when Gen Z, when I say Gen Z, what is the answer? What is that?
Truthfully, I didn't know that answer about a minute ago.
But I'm not being mean, just so you all know. He looked it up.
I did Google it. Gen Z are those born between 97 and 12. Right. 1997 and 20.
So the oldest Gen Z right now are in their 20s.
Yeah.
And the youngest Gen Z are headed into middle school.
Yeah.
12, just to give you all an
12
idea.
to about my math skills are failing me. Mid to late 20s.
Yeah, so what we've got are our high school students, our middle school students, my college students. So this whole
Correct.
Gen Z. And a little bit political science. I'll tell you what, Rusty, I like to talk about generational differences because they exist. One of the ways that you get your politics is through your lived experiences. And the thing is, if you're a generation like we are that grew up without smartphones, it's a little bit different than a generation that grows up with Instagram. I mean, like it just is, right? So these lived experiences have an effect. So I wanted to have a conversation about some new polling data indicating that Gen Z were much more likely to hide or lie about who they voted for. So a poll reveals that 25% of voters hid their electoral choices. So here's the reason why I love this, right? So someone asked you who you voted for, right? And then you answer, and then the friendship's over, right? Like that could be like right there. Or the relationship, or you're never going on another date ever, right? I've been on the podcast Dating at Her Age with Debbie and Caitlin, right? And we talked about how on the dating apps, people will say, if you voted for Trump, swipe whatever direction. I don't even know. I've never been on those
honestly,
apps.
I don't know which direction
Right,
is
so whatever
which.
the direction is. So a little bit, what we're learning is young people are not, they're hiding their choices because they are afraid of starting a conflict. Because you know what? Most humans are relatively conflict averse. Does that make sense? And like, let's not start a fight if I don't have to.
Yeah, so what's interesting in this poll is that nearly half, I mean, let's call it half, 48% of Gen Z said they lied about who they voted for.
To
But the
people
others,
close to them. So I want to be clear. It's not pollsters. So it's not like, or Dr. Murray, right? So it's not Professor Murray going, who'd you vote for and you lied? Or pollster called and said, who'd you vote for and they lied? It would be you asking your son, who did you vote for? And he lies.
Yeah, lies. 48% of Gen Z, 38% of millennials, 17% of Gen X, and 6% of boomer and older. So it looks like as you get older, you're not afraid to say...
Or you don't care.
Or you don't care. It's
like, let me annoy everybody.
I am old, and I unapologetically told people I was voting for Trump again. And people, I got eye rolls before. I think now after the election, you'll get less eye rolls because it's over and it was so decisive. But I found this was interesting that such a high... it's half of them said they lied about who they voted for, even with those that they know well, showing that they were just fearful of... call it intimidation or the way that they're treated. That's significant. And then they also interviewed some people on some higher education campuses here in Utah, and they had some interesting things to say there as well.
Yeah, no, it was. I want to just tell you, a lot of people in higher ed were talking about like post-election aftermath.
Yeah.
Okay. And I kept saying to people, first of all, if you are this strung out by the presidential election, seriously, there's a problem. Because and you've heard me say this a million times, who you vote for county commissioner is actually going to affect your life. Who the president
More
is really,
so.
is not really that much going to affect your life. I love this quote from Malcolm Hatfield, an English major at UVU, Utah Valley University, telling the Deseret News the day after the election, surprisingly, nobody was really talking about it, and that campus had really normal vibes, which made me smile. So I was getting all these emails, right, from people going, how's it going? And I would agree with Malcolm. It was really normal vibes.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. I have a son that works in Washington, D.C., and I think before the election, there were areas of D.C. that they had been boarding up, if I remember right. I mean, I know this isn't on a campus, but just the anticipation of however this is going to go, there's going to be a problem. Maybe I just missed the news. I don't think there were any issues. I literally, that's what's been so amazing is that this was over.
Yeah.
And basically either side just kind of walked away, some happy, some not. But it's interesting with his comment about just being a normal vibe. I'd say that's been across the board.
And also, thank goodness.
Yeah.
A little bit rusty, right? So here's my thing. One of the questions this begs is, what is it about Gen Z? And some people would say maybe Gen Z are just more sensitive. Maybe they're just a bit more angsty, right? And all of those. But a little bit, I'm going to tell you, if your entire political history is 2016, 2020, and now, of course you're not telling anybody, right? In 2016, if your team won, you were like looked at like you were something wrong with you, right? So if you were a Trump voter, there was something wrong with you. In 2020, when your team won, right, the other team showed up on January 6th. I mean, none of this seems in any way polite or civil, right? So none of them are arguing the way that you and I argue about things, right? Which is basically the personal is not political.
Yeah.
The human you are talking to is not political, right? Like I always tell my students, take someone out for coffee or a soda and ask them how they're doing. Don't ask them who they voted for.
Yeah.
Like, why is that the first thing? So I guess I'm not persuaded that it's that Gen Z is more sensitive, Rusty, but maybe you disagree with me. I think it's that Gen Z has really grown up in a very overbearing, highly politicized time where things that shouldn't be political have become political.
Oh, I think that's very true. And this gets onto a bit more of a topic, but I'll get on my soapbox anyway, is I think there is some generational gap now where I would hope that the younger generation is learning the skill to just engage with other people face to face and have a good, honest conversation. I think it's some of the most meaningful conversations I've had in recent memory are often with people that I am diametrically opposed to politically, where we sit down and we're talking about life, we're talking about our family, our kids, our jobs, whatever. And you see where they're coming from, and it's very enlightening and heartening to see, okay, that's what's important to them. And they've kindly listened to me instead, and they're my age, so this is not, there's no generational gap to where we're able to do that and do it in a respectful way. That's not always the case, but it's nice. And to your point, I worry that this generation is a bit more, as you say, a bit more of my kids use the term screenager.
A bit more, I like that term.
More of just head down in that screen, and what you're seeing in that screen is amped up for eyeballs. It's it wants to grab your attention for a few seconds to watch that video. If it's not edgy, it might not get watched, and so I think they're bombarded with that to where maybe they think that's the way the world is supposed to be when it really isn't. That's not reality.
So can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
As my good Republican friend that you are, right? So a little bit, I worry about that screenager. Man, I'm going to use that phrase. I'm going to tell you, I like that.
You can have it. Yeah.
Can I have that? Yeah. Thank you. So the screenager, that's a very national media source, meaning that like my kids and your kids have friends from all over the country, maybe even internationally, right? Because they can really talk to each other real quickly in a way that we wouldn't have done that growing up. And I wonder if when I say things like it really matters who the county commissioner is, but the media feed is all national, international influencers, right? Like a little bit, maybe what social media is doing is kind of, attacking at the foundation of federalism, right? That actually we are a very pluralistic society and people are super different all across the country and states and localities manage different things, right, in the best ways that they can. And maybe, right, by making everything kind of binary at the national level, we have lost, I don't know, that local feel. Does that make sense to politics? Which really is, it's about your.
And this whole segment gets to that point of as far as younger generations coming up, they are just have been raised, and this is mostly my kids. I think they're all Gen Zers now that I do the math. It's just a different world than what I grew up in, and I've got to recognize that and make adjustments and appreciate what they've been through and what they're going through. And I think hopefully if everybody is that, things go a little bit smoother between all generations.
The Salt Lake Chamber is Utah's voice for business. Okay, that sounds great, but what does it really mean? Well, as Utah's largest and longest-standing business association, they support and champion community prosperity throughout the state. And if you're in business, well, that's a very good thing for you. Be sure to listen to the Chamber's Speaking on Business, weekdays at 7:20, 11:55, and 5:20 p.m. on KSL News Radio.
Get up to a 30% upfront bonus to use for your retirement income, or up to 12% per year to help grow your retirement income. Whether you're in retirement or will be retiring within 10 years, Trajan Wealth can offer some of the highest guarantees in the business. I'm Jeff Jr. with Trajan Wealth, and I know no one wants to work forever. We all need to retire someday, and I know you've worked hard for your money, so now is the time to guarantee it. Take advantage of up to a 30% upfront bonus for your retirement income, or up to 12% per year for retirement income. Don't woulda, shoulda, coulda. Get up to a 30% bonus just for opening an account, or up to 12% per year for retirement income. Don't leave your retirement to chance. Retire the right way, the Trajan way, with Trajan Wealth. Call Trajan today at 801-899-7600. That's 801-899-7600.
Annuity guarantees are based on the claims paying ability of the issuing insurance company. DBA in most states says Trajan Wealth Insurance Solutions
solutions.
Are you looking to save on internet and mobile this holiday season? Well, good news. Xfinity's having a Black Friday sale. They have you covered with these great deals. Learn how to get your choice of 5G phone on Xfinity Plus. You can also get fast, reliable Xfinity internet and a line of Xfinity Mobile Unlimited for a great low price. So don't wait. Bring home a new 5G phone and get Wi-Fi speeds up to a gig on Xfinity Mobile. That's a big deal. Or should I say gig deal? Now through December 3rd, ask how to get your choice of a free 5G phone with an unlimited Plus line, plus get Xfinity Gigabit Internet with free Wi-Fi equipment for only $25 a month for 12 months. No annual contract when you add unlimited mobile. Go to Xfinity.com/Black Friday sale to learn more. Restrictions apply. Taxes and fees extra after promo. Regular rates apply. Gig Wi-Fi requires Xfinity Gateway. Xfinity Mobile requires Xfinity Internet. Gig speeds available via hotspots to Xfinity Mobile customers only. Reduced speeds after use of monthly data included with your data option. Actual internet speeds and data thresholds may vary.
Cindy Olsen here for Dave's Bernina's huge Black Friday week sale at their Provo and St. George stores, featuring 1.99% up to 60 months financing on certain models. Burnett sewing machines start at only $249. Buy the Bernina B700E for only $2,999. Save $2,000. The Bernina 735 is discounted and includes thousands of dollars of free accessories while supplies last. How about a free embroidery module if you purchase a B570 QE or B770 QE Plus? Black Friday weekend doorbuster specials, $99 walking fee for the first 10 customers, incredible accessory deals, and a limited supply of Bernina 3, 4, 5, and 7 series machines. Offered at prices too low to mention. Fantastic bargains on trade-in machines and Q20 quilters. Black Friday week at Dave's Bernina, 691 East St. George Boulevard and 2017 North 550 West in Provo. Come see the Bernina 990, the most amazing revolutionary sewing machine in the world.
Getting help with plumbing repairs is easier than you think. All you have to do is call Any Hour Services or schedule an appointment at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
With the three things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bomas. First, a week-long hearing is wrapped up in the Ralph Menzies case, with the judge saying a ruling will come later on whether he is competent to face execution. Second, the Department of Education rolled out its new federal student aid forms today. It says they have fixed glitches in the FAFSA forms from last year. And third, UDOT will shut down Bangor Highway at 9800 South tonight to install a new pedestrian bridge. 51 degrees, partly cloudy in Salt Lake City. And back to Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
You're listening to an encore presentation of Inside Sources. Inside Sources. Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Welcome back to the new Inside Sources. This is Taylor Morgan with Rusty Cannon. Rusty, we have been talking off air during the break here about our personal road trips that we have taken in years past across the country. You and I both have spent some time working in Washington, D.C., in our nation's capital, and that necessitated, at least in my case, some cross-country road trips. Went different ways through different states, sought out baseball stadiums, college football stadiums, really got a flavor for the rest of the country, and I really enjoyed those experiences. I don't know that I'd want to do it again today, Rusty, because I don't have a lot of tolerance for driving 3,000 miles.
It's a long ways.
It is.
Yeah, it's a long ways.
I prefer to fly these days. But a very interesting story, a very insightful article has come out by Senator-elect, former representative, or current, I guess, representative. That's right. John Curtis. John Curtis just had the opportunity to take a road trip and really had some profound thoughts.
Yeah, it was interesting. When I read this article, and we'll get into the details, it reminded me I had the greatest blessing a few years ago to drive across the country to take my daughter to college at Southern Virginia University, and we drove just straight east from here. And I so many revelations that I'd flown across the country many times, as a lot of us have, but never driven across. And so this was my first opportunity to see states on the ground like Nebraska and Iowa and all of that. And my main revelation, Taylor, is one word: corn. Like, I could not believe, and I'm not just talking a little bit of corn.
I assume you took the 80 then, and you drove through Nebraska.
Oh yeah,
okay,
Iowa and all that. And not only is there corn everywhere, it is from, I think, eastern Wyoming all the way to West Virginia, at least the route we drove. And these aren't fields that are just small. These are fields of corn that you need a helicopter to even see the other edge of it. Like these are massive,
amber waves of grain.
Oh, just unbelievable. And you think about how blessed our country is in the geography of not only is our breadbasket there in the middle, and apparently we just grow a bunch of corn there. We then have massive rivers that can help us distribute it down to the Gulf of Mexico with a seaport where we can ship it out from there. It's just, that's a whole other conversation. But my point being, it opened my eyes to so much. And as Representative, soon-to-be Senator Curtis talked about, and we'll get into the details, he wrote a great article. It's in The Hill on thehill.com if you want to search for it, where he just talks about what he learned from people and what better way and better timing than something like this for him to talk about. It was just fascinating.
Yeah. One of the things that Senator-elect John Curtis says over and over in this article is how, his sense as he took this road trip right on the heels of Election Day, just a couple days after Election Day, right? He took this road trip with his wife, and one of his main takeaways, Rusty, was that Americans in more rural parts of the country, the center of the country, not just geographically, but perhaps, the heart and soul of our country, as he calls it, felt that national politicians and celebrities, elites, were just out of touch.
Yeah, right. Exactly. This is a quote that actually he said. He said, "These amazing Americans had no time to argue or yell or scream about any of the manufactured Armageddon political predictions." He went on to also say there were pickup trucks filling up at each of the gas pumps with old-timers shaking their heads as the digital dollar display raced up. Young professionals raced in and out, far more worried about the price of their energy drink than a Green New Deal. Young families popped in, possibly wondering if buying the kids a treat for the drive would impact their ability to get bread and milk later. And interesting, he said there was no mention of Republicans or Democrats, just issues on their mind.
See, that is so interesting to me, Rusty. And it reminds me of a conversation that you and I actually had right here on KSL Inside Sources in the week before Election Day.
Mm-hmm.
We were joined here on the program by News Nation's Brian Enton.
Yeah, I remember.
A reporter. At that time, Brian had just concluded a 2-week road trip across the country. Throughout that road trip, as a correspondent for News Nation, he was talking to voters in every state that he drove through, talking to them about the issues, asking them about the election and candidates. And I remember we very specifically asked Brian during that interview what the main issues voters were talking about throughout the country. And without hesitation, Brian clearly said, it doesn't matter what party, doesn't matter for whom they say they're voting, everyone has serious issues with the economy.
Yeah.
And fast forward post-Election Day, Rusty, I think the results in this election really showed that.
Yeah. Yeah, it was. He also said it really succinctly in another paragraph. He said, those in rural America and countless other places weren't interested in having elite and economically out of touch A-list celebrities or even former presidents shame, scold, or lecture them about how they should vote. They didn't want to be told about government successes they hadn't seen or strong economic numbers that weren't helping them stretch their money all the way to the end of the month. It was just, he just spot on things that he learned as going across the country and learning from these people. And as you mentioned, back to that old saying, it's the economy, stupid. That is what he found along the lines with what the reporter you mentioned that we talked to before the election found. That is what is, at least this time around, was definitely on everybody's mind.
Yeah. Okay, Rusty, let's maybe try to